Okay, so what is interactive fiction anyway? Well, it is choice-based games and point and click, whatever you want to call it. Here's a couple. Let me show you a couple things on Steam. This game is, let me go back to the first one, and I'll show you what it looks like. This game is called 80 Days. It's extremely well known, very famous, won a lot of awards, and it is based on a point and click interactive fiction model where you talk to people and then you decide how you're going to act based on the information that you get from folks. So this is a really great game. It's a steampunk version of Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days. And you can see what it looks like. It's really, really pretty wonderful. This is what the text of it looks like. Maybe a little bit hard to see, but there's some text, and then you make a choice of how you want to respond and what you're going to do next. And so that's one way that you go through this game with all of these. This is interactive fiction because you're interacting with it. Another game that I particularly like, which is a very weird and will make your brain hurt. And let me show you what it looks like if I can. It's beautiful. It's got a lot of gorgeous visuals, great music, and it works the same way. If you want to see it in full flower, where you see the choices that you make, then come to the optional session on Tuesday, and we'll play through a little bit of this because it's on my computer because I've played it a couple of times and it just makes me completely nuts. It took them years. It's an independent game, but it's a terrific game, and you can see sort of just a hint of what it looks like. Now, granted, these are model, contemporary things, but interactive fiction really started back in the 70s with this thing called Colossal Cave Adventure, written by and for bored computer programmers who had nothing better to do. So they created this little parser game, and this is what it looks like on the screen. It gives you some text, and then you have to decide what direction you're going to go in. This is sort of what it looks like on the screen. Here are the guys who made it, and this is what it looked like on the real screen. Okay, on this green on black. Okay, this is old school stuff, right? But it was impressive. But the thing that really got things kicked off for interactive fiction was a game called Zork. And let me find Zork. So Zork is right here. Zork is what we now call or think of as a parser game, where you have to find stuff. This one really introduced a whole lot of tropes for fiction, interactive fiction. It's a really, a notable opening. And this is what it looks like when you're on the screen. You're standing in an open field, and then you start typing in things to do. The mailbox is closed. Open the mailbox. A little letter. Okay. So you really have to think through what's going on in them. And they are evil. They make me completely nuts. There's one that I am going to put on our site, which is Lost Pig, which is this. Lost Pig. This is hard. Grunk is kind of I don't know what Grunk is, but he's a worker on this farm, and the pig has gotten lost, and you are Grunk. Okay, and you have to go find the pig. So just at the beginning, Grunk go outside, probably go this way. Hard to tell at night because moon not as bright as sun. They're forest to east and north, and even darker there. And Grunk hear lots of strange animal. West of Grunk there be big field with stone wall. Farm go back south. So you say go south. Grunk get in big trouble if Grunk go back with no pig. Okay, that's not a good idea. So go west. Not allowed in the field. That's okay. Not tall enough to climb over the wall. How about listen? Okay. Quiet noises. He hears a noise. It's someplace in the bushes, but not sure which way it come from. You can go completely crazy trying to figure out stuff. Full disclosure, when I played this, I had to use the walkthrough to get it. So parser games are really tough, and they kind of lost, they kind of disappeared, actually, when things like Dragon's Lair finally showed up, the arcade games in the 80s. And this is, if I can get this to go, hang on. This is Dragon's Lair, one of the arcade games from the 80s. You couldn't really do much, except go through walls and doors and stuff, and it didn't have a lot of interactivity to it. But they were very, very popular, all these arcade games. And so interactive fiction, which was really hard, sort of disappeared back into the woodwork. But it never really went away, and it kind of reinvented itself and made a comeback in the 80s because of things like this. You may or may not have done a Choose Your Own Adventure game book. You're probably way too young for it, but they're still around. I know my granddaughter just got one of these Choose Your Own Adventures in a box of books that she gets every month. She and her friends, and they're loving this thing. They love doing this because this is what it looks like on the inside, right? So here's a page, and if you get down to the bottom of the page, it says, if you want to do this, go to this page. If you want to do this, go to a different page. So there's different pages that take you through different paths through the story, and it's all on a book. Now, to lay these things out is really complicated because they're full of what we call branching narratives, which means the story is not going to one specific ending, but can go to many. The visual map or concept map of one of these Choose Your Own Adventure games, actually this one, The Mystery of Chimney Rock, looks like this. Okay, so look at all the branches. You start here, here it goes. These are page numbers. Go there, it can go here, it can go there. Okay, what? That didn't work. So it can go nuts. Now, we're not asking you to do anything this long. In fact, the assignment for this class is to do a game that's 3 to 5 minutes in length. So it's not much, right? But that's sort of the length of these things. But that's what they can be. So you're going to be doing a main story and then a few branches to get to different endings, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Right. What else is going on with Choose Your Own Adventure is that there is a whole website called choiceofgames.com that's full of interactive fiction games. Now you'll notice something with Lost Pig and Zork both is that there are no visuals. So interactive fiction is purely text. So let me show you what this looks like in practice. Here's Kidnapped, maybe. Here's Kidnapped, right? Well, this is how these things start. So this is sort of setting it up, and then you go off to I'm going to play for free. The nice thing about these choice of games is that they're free through the first chapter, and so I'm going to ask you to play one for this week. So this sort of sets it up, and then ask a question: what's the third child? So this one is mostly in verse. So here we go. So now we get to the story. The palace servants flutter around you, preparing for your grand birthday ball. You're not merely a year older, you're an adult, and in a matter of hours will be crowned as official heir to your parents' throne, in the event that they should both meet some dreadful end. The stained glass on the eastern wall of your bedchamber shields you from the rising sun. The swing of the palace was designed, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is what you do. Servant takes the emerald-studded hairbrush from the table, holds it standing at attention, almost like a soldier waiting orders. Now you get some choices. Okay, take the brush, toss your hair, expect it to look like a monarch. I have my servants do something fashionable. If I let a servant do this, they'll try an hour trying to mimic court fashions. You pick one and you go on to the next. So this is how the game goes through. Now you can see how many potential story paths there are, how many potential branches there are. And it can get kind of nuts, but they're also fun to write. A lot of kids are making these on Google Forms. I'm working with a bunch of 5th graders to do interactive fiction using Google Forms. There's also a program called Inkwriter that actually 80 Days was built on. So it's a very powerful but also very simple program, and you can find it on inkwriter.com. So this is interactive fiction. So what we're going to be doing in this class is you are going to be coming up with the story for your game, and then you're going to be creating a couple of things. Let me go over here to this assignment sheet and I'll show you. All right, so here we are. I talked a little bit about that. There's a lot of really good interactive fiction games where you have to make choices, choice-based interactive fiction. Ones with great video like Firewatch, which I love, and I'm still stuck underground and freaking out. Walking Dead series, Gone Home, even The Last of Us, even if you're killing zombies periodically, it's a choice-based interactive fiction game. And so you're going to take some of the issues that you looked at in Unit 2 and create one of these games. It can address what you looked at either through the storyline or the character or the world itself. but you're creating something new that shows us the issue in a new video game way. So here's, for example, if you're interested in women, images of women in video games, write an interactive fiction game with a smart woman who is fighting for something. Okay, let us see that women in video games are not all Lara Croft, for example. Right? You might write a game that's set in your own culture, your own cultural background, and even if the story has not much to do with cultural awareness or appropriation, just putting your game in that world should teach us about what that culture is really like. We even had a student pitch a story, I guess this summer, about somebody who gets involved with and works within the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay, so there's a lot of ways to approach that. But the heart of interactive fiction, as I say here, is choice and character. What's nice about IF is that you really get to know a character and you really start to follow them on this journey. And it's something I'll talk about in the next video. So in 80 days, it's all about character. An ordinary person faces an extraordinary situation and changes somehow internally, or changes the situation around them, okay, as they make choices that help them resolve the situation, help them get where they want to go. So in 80 days, for example, it's a steampunk version of Jules Verne. I think I mentioned that. So Passepartout, who is the valet to Phileas Fogg, has to decide if he wants to help the steampunk automatons gain their freedom, or if he wants to simply keep his boss on the straight line to winning the game and winning a bet with a bunch of rich guys. Right, so every choice in these things has consequences, either big or little, because they take the main character in different directions and onto different paths. And that goes for any interactive fiction game. So obviously, as I said, you can't do a visually rich game, programming it in Python the way you're going to be doing. But we're going to talk about how to really do all this stuff. Narrative, archetypes, character creation, how to design a story. So the bottom line is it's sort of a cut-down version of a very long game, because we don't want you to make anything that's going to take longer than 3 to 5 minutes to play, because you may not get it programmed in time. It's just too much work. So once you get it written in the next 3 weeks, it's going to go to Professor Cunningham, so you can program it in 1101 for the rest of the term. You're also going to write an artist statement, where you kind of go back through the process of writing it and what you learned about narrative and games and writing for video games. I have examples of what to look for, which I'll do in the next video, or how to write it, which is in the next video. And so it's mostly going back and thinking through the process of writing your game and your story and what you learned, what you think turned out well and what didn't, that kind of stuff. This is what you'll be graded on, and you know your genre, but there are things about interactive fiction that I'll talk about a little bit more. What do you know about narrative, and how appropriate is it for your audience? If you set it up for an audience of teenagers, has it got stuff that shouldn't be there? Was it effective? And that kind of stuff. So that's what we're doing. That's what interactive fiction is all about. And I'm going to close off this video now and go to the next one where we talk about narrative specifically.